things we were going to have. It's like, boom, we have some full house here. And at the end of our presentation, we do have some handouts. And unfortunately, we may not have enough, but if you are interested, definitely email us, and we'd be happy to forward you anything that we have. My name is Michelle Sims. I'm Director of Instructional Technology. This is my colleague, Susan Darlington. She's Director of Online Learning at Gwinnett Mercy University. And what we're going to share with you today, some of the ways that we have developed and are continuing to work on our online programs, how we prepare our online learners, as well as our face-to-face and our hybrid students with the kinds of resources that we're developing, the faculty online training course, the student readiness course, and I'm also going to show you some of the online and some of the learning activities that we use in our online environment. And our LMS is Blackboard, but the activities that we use will be pretty much platform general, because I'm going to show you some of the things that we actually do and put together. But I just wanted to give a brief highlight. If anyone's familiar with Gwinnett Mercy University, we just recently achieved university status a couple of years ago, which means we changed from college to university, and a lot of other things have had to change. The website, all the instances that says college, and all those things. And we started offering a couple of doctoral programs, but primarily the online programs have just expanded exponentially in nursing, in business, in education. And as you can see, we were founded in 1948. We have 4 satellite campuses as well as the main campus, so the brick and mortar presence has also expanded. But just because of the growth of online learning, we just had to do a tremendous amount of preparation for our student body as well as our adjunct and full-time professors. So we're just going to sort of do a tag team on some of the things we're going to present to you today.
This is Assumption Hall at Gwinnett Mercy University. It's our admissions office, and the president and institutional research work there. I guess this might be kind of annoying because it's too loud. But it was formerly owned by the Bond family on 100 and some acres. And the son, it was Francis Bond was the father, and he had a son named James Bond. And James was very into bird watching, and he wrote a book about birds in the West Indies. And Ian Fleming, who was working on a spy novel, was looking for the name of his protagonist, and he wanted something ordinary for this ordinary person that a lot of things were going to happen to. So he saw the book, and actually we think that he may have visited there. Jim works there as well. And he visited there, he saw this book by James Bond, and he saw the name and said, that is my ordinary name for, as we now know, the movies about James Bond. So that is the real James Bond.
Not exactly sure I'm trying to.
Okay. Yeah, so we just wanted to give you just a little glimpse of some of the uniqueness in our history. As I said, we have our main campus and our 4 satellite campuses located in suburban and central Philadelphia, central city of Philadelphia. And this is just some of our brief highlights. We really have high-touch, high-quality, rigorous academic programs. We offer face-to-face, hybrid, online. Now, some of the challenges that we're coming up with, as I'm sure anyone is in a fully online program, we have to meet the federal, state standards for what our online programs are. And those standards have to be that our online programs have to have learning activities that are equivalent to and equal to the 42 credit hours for a 3-credit course. They have to be what we call the equivalent instructional activities or alternative instructional activities, AIEs or EAIs, depending on, I guess, what you would call them now.
So in East Norriton is our main graduate and professional studies office. And as Michelle said, we have office in Salem and Philadelphia as well. So when we started online about 1.5 years ago, we had nothing. I mean, we had no courses, no faculty trained, no programs. So, but now our faculty have developed 103 online courses across all disciplines. I have enrolled 225 faculty in the online training course. Jim is one of them here. And I'm now teaching the 12th section. And 90 of them have been certified to teach online. So sometimes when faculty take that course, it's not right for them, or they don't have time to take it, and that's okay. It's good that they actually took it and saw whether teaching online is for them or not. It's not for everyone. And then as far as our students, we have a GPS readiness course for them. And this is for all of our GPS students. All of our students use Blackboard. As Michelle was mentioning about the Pennsylvania Department of Standards, 42 hours of instructions. Our courses are 5 weeks, 4 hours a night, once a week. So that's only 20 hours. We need to come up with 22 more hours of instruction. So they use Blackboard heavily. So all of our instructors really, whether they're online or face-to-face, they all use Blackboard. So all of our students get pushed into this GPS readiness course, whether they're online or face-to-face. And our enrollment has really been continuing to expand. So Michelle, you were mentioning about the...
So yes, as I said, Pennsylvania Department of Education says requires demonstration and documentation of 42 contact hours and 14 hours of seat time for 3 credit hours. So our challenge is, from a face-to-face to a blended to an online, how do we still maintain the reputation for high-quality, high-touch classroom environment and transfer those same activities, those same equivalencies into an online environment? What are some of the things that we can do? And these questions stand out. How do we prepare and engage our learners? And how do we design online learning experiences to be just as rigorous? Especially when convenience, we have the 5 to 7 week programs, especially when convenience is the number one or highly up there, the motivator for a lot of people and a lot of adult learners why they will take our courses.
So I'll cover preparing the online learner. Michelle's going to cover engaging. She teaches a couple of really great classes and has some really cool stuff. So first, before you can prepare the student, you need to prepare the faculty. You can have a great designed course, but if the faculty is not effective teaching that course, then the student's not going to have a good experience. So I know this isn't a faculty workshop, but I'm just going to briefly go over our faculty training course. It's 7 weeks, fully online. It is mandatory. They cannot teach online at Gwinnett Mercy unless they go through this course. Now, a couple of instructors have been certified, one at Edison, and so they've been waived after a conversation with me, but most of them have to go through the course. And then our GPS readiness course, go ahead.
Is that specific exam for you or anybody can take?
Any faculty member can take it, even though at Gwinnett Mercy.
Oh.
At Gwinnett Mercy. Yeah, they might not even be scheduled to teach online, but if they're interested in learning how to teach online, they can take the course. For our students, it's self-paced and is fully online also. It's recommended. We had them forcing them to do it, and then it was Michelle and I going into the course to make sure they were completing things, and it just got, we didn't have time really to keep up with that. So now it's recommended, and honestly, we don't have that many help tickets for students in online. So, and I do go in there occasionally, and they are, posting to the discussion board, and I'll be showing you that course. So the faculty training course, I just wanted to quickly go through. It's 7 modules. The first module really just talks about online learning. What is it? The research, a lot of different research out there that they have to read and just learn what online learning is all about. If they would prepare to teach online, the skills they'll need to teach online. Module 2 is the syllabus and the schedule. Any online course should have a really robust schedule for the students with, week 1, you're doing this, and this. These are the due dates. Here's a little check mark that you finished them. You really have to for the students in online, kind of handhold a bit more. And the syllabus, so many syllabi I get say, hand in your paper, such and such. It's like, you're not using hand in. Any reference to the classroom has to go. And then the importance of the learning communities, which, as you all probably know, that's very important. So each week there's a discussion board around these subjects. And week 4 is really all about Blackboard, and because we are using Blackboard, they need to know about Blackboard and wikis and journals and blogs, so they have to do all of these things. And really all the Blackboard their assignments are dispersed throughout the 7 weeks. It's not just week 4, they have to do all this stuff in Blackboard, but we let them know what's there and the different interactive functions they can use. And then week 5 is about course assessment and evaluation, plagiarism, how to deter that in the online environment. And module 6, and I think this is the most important, course management and facilitation. I think they have no idea until they teach an online course how much work it is, how difficult it is to facilitate and manage. After people have taken this course, they've come back after they've taught and said, oh my gosh, the number of hours that I spent, responding to questions in the discussion board and whatnot. And then finally, week 7 is really just some resources for them in a wrap-up. While they're doing this course, they also have to create a 5-week online course. Nothing major, not a ton of stuff, but just to show that they can design it and that they can use some of the Blackboard features. So they can take the course and complete it, but to actually get certified, I have to review their practice course. So I made a little Adobe Connect video. Just going to get out of our presentation here, just to show you how we use Adobe Connect. And I was going to use it here, but it's 8 minutes long. I thought it was a little too long.
A lot of our online instructors use it
Just do it
to
so I
reach out to the students, typically on a weekly basis or whenever they need to just kind of add a personal touch to the online learning environment. So I'm going to share my screen with you.
So our instructors use Adobe Connect a lot. I'm in the MBA online program at our college, and right now, and our instructor every week has an Adobe Connect session and goes through all of our exercises. Something like accounting can be difficult for people.
Okay, so this is the GPS readiness course. All of our students, it's recommended that they take this course, and so we have an announcement here that allows them.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually I opened up Blackboard and I'm going to actually go to the course. So here's our GPS readiness course that all of our students get placed in. We have a Start Here button that kind of describes the course. It's a little bit slow. Description of the course, the objectives, created a virtual orientation video that they can watch. There are minimal tech requirements there. And then there are 4 learning modules, and Michelle and I actually created an original course that was very robust. And it was just too much, especially, with our accelerated program, our students might sign up and start in a week. So they really didn't have time to go through this huge course. So we were asked to slim it down. And we actually added some things that after some instructors who taught online said, I think the students need this and this. Okay, so module 1 is adult learning success skills. They take a learning styles inventory to find out how they learn, and that also includes an assessment of what their strengths and weaknesses are. Just reading top 10 qualities of online learning and talking about time management skills and academic integrity, and information about basic computer skills. So if they need more assistance on computer skills, we have a folder there for Microsoft Office tutorials, window file management is really important, and not everyone, not all of our students understand the whole file management. If you're taking an online course, you really need to set up folders on your computer for each course, and weeks within those courses to really keep track of your work. And then, of course, the Apple tutorials there. So that's module 1, really kind of getting them ready to learn online. Then module 2. Module 2 is navigating our portal. I mean, it's kind of funny because if they've made it here, they probably navigated the portal a little bit. But there are other things to the portal that they are not familiar with, and that we have Power Campus is our student information system. And so that's where they're going to look at their grades and you sign up for other classes and stuff. So they really need to know that. So we have a video on navigating self-service and how they find their grades, how they make their payments, navigating their Gmail. You know, they might know the basics of Gmail, but there's the calendar and there's a lot of other things to Gmail that they might not know about. And then module 3 is then more about the Blackboard, what they're going to need to know to do in their class. So we have few folders in here. They have to post to the discussion board. So in each of these folders talks about what is the discussion board, you know, why are you going to use it in the course, how important it is in the course, link to etiquette in the course. Then we created our own videos on how to post to the discussion board, and they're very short, they're all less than 2 minutes. And then they have to introduce themselves on the discussion board. So this is self-paced, so no one's really replying to anyone. And in the beginning, when the course was robust, Michelle and I were going in saying, hi, you know, welcome, and it just really got to be too much. So we had to kind of turn it into a self-paced. They have to submit an assignment now. Our undergraduate students have to submit a writing assignment. Writing is very important for online learning. You're doing a whole lot of writing in any online course. So they submit a writing sample, and then our dean can go in here and review the writing sample. So I would say then the course is recommended for some of the undergraduate students. So just telling them that you're going to be submitting assignments at Blackboard. You're not handing in papers anymore. It's all through Blackboard, and this is how you submit an assignment, and here's your writing sample that you need to submit. And posting to a blog, similar, we probably don't need to go in there. They have to watch a video and then blog about it. And then taking a test, that's scary for adult learners. They haven't been in school for a long time, and there were tests. And a lot of adult programs don't even have tests. It's all project-based. So if we want to prepare them in case our instructors, and there are quizzes in a lot of our online courses. So we kind of talk to them about tests, taking a test in Blackboard test taking skills, or tips, sorry. Then a video on taking the test, and then we let them know it's just 5 little questions. You're not gonna flunk the course or anything. This is not a pass-fail type of thing. And then finally, module 4, and this is feedback from the faculty. Who had taught online where they felt that students needed more help. A lot of our courses, they expect the student to create PowerPoint presentations that include audio. So the students need to know how to create an audio presentation. Some FAQs that they found they had to answer a lot of those questions, more about etiquette, and then just really getting them a little bit stronger on the Microsoft Office skills and Adobe Connect. A lot of our instructors use Adobe Connect, so there's some tutorials on how to do that. And then Google Drive, a lot of our courses ask the student to upload to Google Drive. So, and then really just on the side here, we have some resources and technology tutorials in every class. All all of our online courses has this link here to technology tutorials, where some of the neat ones are our own internal Blackboard video tutorials, but we have how to turn your computer in a laptop into a recording studio, how to use Google Drive, creating a Padlet wall, things that we were using a lot that we wanted to keep those tutorials in every single one of our classes. And this really is what our template looks like. It's tried to pick the color of our college. And so in each of our courses, we have the link to the library, link to our Academic Resource Center, our Blackboard video tutorials, our training documents, that's step-by-step documentation, IT services to link to the help desk, and link to the Blackboard overall general help. So that is our GPS readiness course. I'm going to go back here to. If you have any questions, let us know.
So is that a course that you actually create for each term or each?
We create it once for each term. So this one's called Fall 2014, and every student who's getting put in that course gets, who was taking a course in the fall gets placed in that.
And you mentioned that you guys are enrolled in it to kind of keep an overview, and you mentioned the dean also being able to go in and check the assignments. Who else do you have in there kind of monitoring things? Because I know on discussion boards if there's any kind of harassment.
The advisors go in also.
Okay.
That's a good point though with harassment, yeah.
Yeah, we have a course that's similar, but I kind of took out anywhere that they actually interacted because it's not a course that we keep an eye on. So I just wasn't sure how you guys handle that.
Yeah, the advisors all have access, the dean has access, Michelle and I have access. But yeah, that's something I'll keep an eye on.
Do you also make the faculty take that course as well?
No, I let them know in my training course with them, I tell them about this course and I show them this course so that they know that their students should be prepared, And that way if they get a question and I tell them, ask your student, did they take the GPS readiness course? If they're asking you a question about how do I post to the discussion board, that means that they never took, they didn't bother going in there. So now Michelle teaches a couple of courses that all of which involve using a lot of engaging technologies.
One of the courses that I do teach has to do with technology integration, either for pre-K to 8 or pre-K to 12, but it translates over into designing instructional activities in general. So what I'm going to go through are some of the ways that alternative instructional activities or equivalencies can be translated into an online environment. What I have here is a list of AIEs, so some of those alternative instructional activities. So, for instance, blogs, journals, case studies, web quests, chat rooms, discussion boards, virtual field trips, group projects, guided projects. A whole lot of these will be available, or I guess, acceptable to the Department of Education. And turning them from face-to-face again into online is one of our challenges. So this has been a good guideline and sheet that we've used. And we also have more handouts here. I use frameworks a lot, conceptual frameworks, to help the students to just get the visual graphics, just the idea of what it is that we're doing, the big picture, and how technology itself is pretty much, it's really just the tool. It's the hammer that you're going to hit. You're going to hit the nail with the hammer. You could use the wrench, it will get the same point across, but the hammer is the better tool. So, what are some of the tools that we can use to get the same learning outcomes? If a learning outcome is listed in our course, and we're going to use the discussion board, or we're going to use a web quest to get that outcome met, what are some ways that Blackboard, what are some ways that the instructional technologies can help facilitate that? And using this term called technogogy. Has anybody ever sort of like a portmanteau technology, where technology and pedagogy meet? In an online environment, collaboration and interactivity are crucial. So is anybody familiar with the term technogogy? No.
Michelle coined that term.
No, I didn't really coin it. I didn't necessarily coin it. I sort of borrowed it And I made this sort of framework just to get the idea that they're all interconnected and they're all relevant. Technology and pedagogy meeting is crucial in an online environment, especially where teacher and instructor are separate. So take a look here. This is one of the courses that I teach, and when working with it, a lot of our instructors, when they did work with these courses, they worked with instructional designers from a company called Synergist, and they helped us to align our university goals with the program goals, and then at the course level. So everything is aligned. This is a 7-week course, and it's for students who are in service and pre-service teachers. So these are students that are learning how to both use technology in the classroom, but the challenge in an online environment is how to model that when you're not, sometimes never seeing the student. Sometimes the course is in a hybrid mode, but if you're in an environment where you never see your student, that's the big challenge. How do you develop these activities that get the point across that also meet all of the state requirements? So all of our courses here, every course lists what the weekly objectives are, what the learning objectives are. Every module has its own folder of what the activities are and what the assignments are. And there are also supplemental activities. I'm just going to go through some of the things that we do. So based on our instructional equivalencies, this course focuses on these 3 main frameworks: Bloom's Revised Taxonomies, TPAC, which is technology, content, and pedagogy knowledge, where they all interact and where they all intersect. And then, is anyone familiar with the SAMAR model? Substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition of activities. So in a face-to-face environment, translating that into something that goes up this scale, substituting it. The example that I like to use is that when television first came into play, it was single camera focus, so it pretty much substituted what was on the stage, the vaudeville stage. Then they started to get different camera angles. Then they started to edit it, and then as it moved up the scale here from substituting and augmenting and modifying, now we actually have performers that in some cases aren't even human. We have CGI, computer generated images, and there's a concept that you might want to write down and take a look at it. If you're familiar with the uncanny valley, anyone see the movie Avatar? Avatar deals a lot with what's called the uncanny valley, that the closer an image is to human, the less comfortable we feel. So that's why a lot of the avatars, when if they can't get the facial recognition that makes it look human, if they're just shy of that, it gives it that sort of zombie effect, and that's what gives us the creeps. That thing is called the uncanny valley. So even in a lot of other resources and things that we're doing here, especially with designing online activities, we have to get past that valley so that the concepts that we're trying to get across, we can use the technology to do. And these are just some of the resources, the web-based resources that we use. Taking these, translating that into the learning activity in order to meet the learning objective is always the challenge. And I also have a list of them if you'd like to pick them up at the end of the presentation. So I'm just going to go over some of the ways that we use these in Blackboard. Icebreakers, just straight discussion. Introduce yourself. What is interesting to you? Let other people in your class know who you are. Just share something. So in this case, there's a riddle that we use. 12 pears hanging high. 12 men came riding by. Each took a pear and left 11 hanging there. How did they do it? 12 pears hanging high. 12 men came riding by. Each took a pear and left 11 hanging there. How did they do it? And imagine getting this riddle across when you don't see the people. So everyone has to put down what their answer is, share with anybody. Anybody know the answer? 12 pairs hanging high, 12 men came riding by. Each took a pair and left 11 hanging there. So when they rode away, there were 11 pairs. How did they do it?
You all shared one.
12 pairs could be taken as 2 of each.
No, it's fruit.
Okay.
It's the fruit.
Alright, I don't know.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Maybe just one rider coming from us.
There was a man named Each. Yeah, so imagine in an online environment. Yeah. So that's always been a challenge, but just things like that, just to get everyone comfortable. Pre-post, we talk a lot about how people learn. We talk about learning theories, epistemologies, the study of knowledge. So we look at constructivism, we look at cognitivism and how those two work together. So a cognitive assessment tool, pre and post quiz. Before anybody ever does anything, there's a pre-quiz, and we have like 10 questions or something like that, and students get so concerned because the grade pops up on the pre-quiz. I don't know anything, you can't grade me on that. It's like, that's the point. I can't grade you on it because this is the pre-assignment. The way that I can determine whether you've learned what it is that I'm trying to teach is to get a baseline for what you know, and then when we do the post, if you've learned it, that is one excellent cognitive method of assessment. And so it's like modeling it and hopefully getting that point through. Journals and blogs, we do a lot of that. And in this one particular assignment, we use Wordle. A Wordle is like a word art tool. So we look at cognitive and constructivist theories. Robert Gagne, for instance. We take a look at his life, his biography. Students then will blog what they have learned from this material. They'll blog it. Then the assignment is to copy and paste their blog and turn that blog into a Wordle. There's also a whole section on why students or why teachers would use a Wordle in a classroom, and what ways that pre-K to 8 especially teachers can use Wordle. It can be printed out, it can be used as a bulletin board, it can be made as a t-shirt emblem, but there are all sorts of ways that the Wordle word art can be used. We have a lot of weekly animated lectures, and Powtoon and Audacity and Vimeo are free resources, free tools that will let a teacher, for instance, create an animated video that will sort of like tell the student what's happening, but just give it a sort of like a animated flair to it. So in this class, the online learners, we will explore, like I said, the differences between revised and original Bloom's taxonomies, and primarily the main difference is revised uses more of the verbs, remembering, analyzing, creating, evaluating. What's the other one? Goes up that scale there instead of the original. So I'm going to show you a little bit later a excellent resource. It's a question stem. It's a strategy for using Bloom's resources because it has question stems based on the kinds of assessments that can be done with these different levels of revised taxonomies. So, for instance, in this one, it's going to show you briefly. We're going to go through some of these. A remembering and applying activity. We talk about TPAC. There's this little 3-minute video on TPAC. There are other resources that are embedded in the course. Recalling it, what is TPAC? What have you done with it? How would you use it in the classroom? And that can be done in a blog, that can be done in a discussion board. But as we move up from the lower order more towards the higher order thinking skills in Bloom's, analyzing and evaluating these activities, there's an audio story and the digital native, digital immigrant from Mark Krinsky, that article there. It's an interesting article. Has anybody read that? It's basically, it says that because students have been so immersed in various kinds of technologies, the physical thought processes in their brain has actually altered. And so just like a native speaking or person, English being your first language, that is the way that you think, versus somebody who has immigrated and has learned English as a second language. The thought process is actually different. There has to be this translation. And his premise is that that's the same thing that happens with digital natives and digital immigrants. And so the physical thought process, the brain, the neuroscience has actually changed. So take a look at, they listen to this audio story. In this particular case, it's Mimsy Where the Boar Goes. I forget his name, but if anybody has read that.
The Jabberwocky.
Jabberwocky, exactly. So Mimsy Where the Boar Goes. What is the correlation between that story and the digital native, digital immigrant? We're moving up the scale of the Bloom's revised. And then finally, we look at creating, and this chart shows a lot of assessment process verbs: acting, arranging, assembling, combining, constructing, creating, designing, developing, formatting. The assessments: creating advertisements, poems, blueprints, cartoons, collages, and the question stems talk about, can you design this? Can you see a possible solution to? How would you devise in your own words? So one of the tools that we use is a tool called Bitstrips for Schools. It's an online comic generator. And in the creating level, they have to take all of those previous levels, the recall, the analyzing, and then create their own comic strip that will basically show what it is that they've learned, putting all of these steps together. And then in the discussion board, talk about how they have made that connection between generating an online strip and the higher order thinking skills that they're actually using in practice. So this is just one of the students' examples. And the students, like, I'm sorry, the dog ate my homework, Mom, Dixie ate my iPad, and the iPad is singing in the dog's stomach. So she sort of combined how she understood all of these previous things that she's learned into a way of creating it and then demonstrating her understanding. So we also use the tools in Blackboard, the Web 2.0 tools, the wikis, the blogs, where knowledge now is not this static thing that you go out and get. Knowledge now is something and is organic. Learning is now organic because everyone can take their own experiences or their own understandings, their own pathways, and put it all together. So it's now this growing thing. When we talk about the wikis in Blackboard, there is a way to just debate. And so there's a question: which learning theory has had the most impact in the last 100 years? Debate it. The students are divided up into teams. In wikis, using wikis, you can create tables, and each student or each group knows exactly where they're going to post their position. So this group is going to post position here, the next group knows where they're going to rebut, the next group knows where they're going to post their position, and again, the other groups are going to have their rebuttals. So creating tables in Blackboard in the wikis helps to give a good debate construct. And then same with the other question here. Should cursive writing be taught in schools? Does a 7-year-old in 2014 really need to know cursive? Debate the issues based on the articles, based on the readings, and even based on your own opinions and your own experiences. And so another activity that we take a look at in Blackboard in this online environment: collaboration, collaborating using the script writing device. I'm a big digital storyteller sort of teacher. So telling the story to get the point across, everybody has a chance to, and again, going through the resources that they're looking at, the videos, the readings, Half the Sky movement, technology-enabled microfinance. So there is this small country in Africa somewhere. Google it, find out about it. How does the impact of iPads in this particular school change the way education is done? And so, next slide. after exploring, all things Google, after exploring Google Maps, Google Translate, Lumen apps from Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything page, Google Translate calendar, Google Lit Trips. If you're not familiar with that, take a look at that. Google Lit Trips. It's a great way to develop virtual tours. You can use maps to put pictures about. First of all, what we did was collaborate in Google Docs. Everybody wrote a story. We started with a story, and then everyone added to this story. And so when we had this story, we created a Google Lit Trip based on what everybody added to it. And so when we do collaborative storytelling wikis, we have the masterpiece, basically, the final piece. And so from that collaboration, we use these other tools, again, with the focus of modeling technology in the classroom in an environment where you may or may not see your students. So creativity and innovation, that is a huge challenge with anyone who's pretty much going to be a teacher. How do you assess whether something, how do you assess creativity? How do you assess innovation? And there's a great article here, 30 ways to promote creativity in your classroom. And again, using that SAMAR model, going from augmentation all the way up to redefinition. This is an example. One of the things that we did, we looked at Sir Ken Robinson, and we looked at some other videos here. But after they created that wiki, the collaborative group storytelling wiki, about a future, somebody from the future coming back to the early 21st century, and he has to rebuild education, the educational school district. Something happened and there's no more schools, there's no more teachers. He has to come back from the past to bring early 21st century people into the future. So what would these students take with them? What would they, if they were gonna go, what would they take to help rebuild the future's educational system? That's basically what the story is about. Everyone had to add their own paragraph to it. We get the story at the end. And then, using several other tools, PowerPoint for instance, everyone had to use the features in PowerPoint to create their own book cover. We had to use the artistic effects in PowerPoint to create their own book cover. So it's a way to make sure that everybody understands the power of collaboration, but also how creativity on top of that can sort of be the icing on the cake. And a few other activities, just going to go through these quickly. Padlet walls, Susan mentioned we use Padlet a lot. And with these students in this class, they're studying student motivation. And there's an excellent article in Disrupting Education, Disrupting the Classroom, where the premise is basically it's saying that students hire schools to do something other than just learning. They're not necessarily just learning history or these other topics. In the same way, McDonald's was doing a study, and it was asking the question, why do people hire milkshakes in the morning when they're in line and they're drinking milkshakes on the way? What are they hiring, quote unquote, that milkshake to do? Just give them a little boost, give them a little lift. They're not necessarily hiring it just to drink the milkshake. So in the same way, students aren't necessarily in school to learn. This book and this research shows that the students are in school to feel successful and have fun with their friends. That's what they are hiring the school to do. So we had a assignment here asking the students, well, what is your milkshake moment? What is it that you are going to have your students hire you to do? What is it that your students are hiring you to do? You, the student, as the would-be, will-be, or in-service teacher. What is it that your students are going to hire you to do? Web quests, if you're familiar with that, it's taking resources online and then constructing them in a way that you would want students to come out with a particular outcome. So here, students interview a historic figure, whoever they choose, or Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. They ask that person, or whoever they ask 3 questions about education in the 21st century? What would you, George Washington, think about education in the 21st century? Students have to also answer the question in the voice of whoever their historic figure is, and then create a PowerPoint to describe or present to the rest of the class. The trick is they only can do that in 3 PowerPoint slides. So they have to use the advanced features in PowerPoint, triggers, hotspots, action buttons, transition, animation. You have to use the higher features in PowerPoint to get all of that across. And that's a way to assess whether not only they know PowerPoint, but web quests as well. So delve a lot into things like that, the project-based learning. What is project-based learning? The kinds of case studies. River City from Chris Dede is a good tool to take a look at project-based learning. So we can't do something on that scale because that's Second Life sort of thing. So using the free stuff like PowerPoint and how-tos, we can do the same sort of case study and turn that into a animated video and talk about it, share, to tell, basically designing your own resource material all inside of, again, Blackboard as an online environment. So we're doing all of these activities, Prezi, Lobsters, all of these things that are relatively inexpensive or free resources, putting them into the online environment, and again, based on those frameworks, TPAC, Loons Revised, SAMAR model, creating our own learning activities. And for instance, social media, huge. There's a way to actually embed. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but because it's really great using all these tools. But I find problem, even with PowerPoint, they're not using any advanced features. How do you make them use them? How do you teach them?
You teach it.
You don't have time because it's just one presentation out of one class. Do you have online tools that force them to understand?
Yeah, absolutely. The video would demonstrate it. So they will go through there. There's a way that we could do synchronous learning as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the video. There are screenshots, but the more thing too is to get them to delve into how to do it. Like I can say, this is what I want to do, use 3 slides, but there's so many resources, tutorials out there, so I'm putting the onus on them to learn PowerPoint inside of this construct because I want them to learn the topic using the tool PowerPoint, but understanding that the PowerPoint is the tool, not the content itself, not the learning content itself.
Separate questions, since
Yes.
we're running out of time. You mentioned the Pennsylvania Department of Education twice. How do you translate what would be a 3-hour course, say, in Brown, that requires 42 hours of in-person instruction? How do you translate that, measure it, and prove the Department of Education that what you're doing online is the equivalent of that? Because that's something that's far from clear to me.
We have faculty, they're called FIGs, faculty instructional guides, and with these approved alternative instructional equivalencies, we measure out a discussion board question would be worth an hour. Doing a project like that would be worth 3 hours. So we have to have at least 42 credit hours. All of these activities fit, and it's all aligned with the course goals, with the program goals. So everything is aligned. Everything that they do, all the assignments are aligned so that it will meet that 42 credit hours.
So
But
the
it's
assignments
listed.
count? Because
Yes.
there was a March 2008 document from the Department of Education that said assignments didn't count.
They well, actually, it said that some of the learning activities, the homework doesn't count. Right.
So you have to figure out what is homework,
Right.
what is not homework.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I think we're even going to change some of those hours. As I mentioned, I'm in the MBA online program, and we have discussion boards equaling an hour, and I spend an hour just thinking about, reading my piece and thinking about what I want to write in my discussion board and typing it, and then I have to respond and read, everyone else is going to respond to read. So discussions are more than an hour, I think.
Our instructional faculty guides are pretty standard, and they list very succinctly what this activity is, how many credit hours it counts for, and where it will fit.
Is there a standard that's developing across a number of institutions that someone could look to, as opposed to generating your own standard?
We look to another institution to generate our standard.
But has anybody done a survey to try and accumulate what the standard is across many different institutions?
I don't think so, at least not
That'd be
that,
nice, but yeah, I know your challenge, and we tried, some of our instructors, our full-timers say, well, this is what I do in 15 weeks, so I have to move this to 7 weeks. And our online classes are mostly 7 for the masters, not, some are 5, the undergraduate, masters are 7. And that's really not the way that you wanna think about it. You wanna think about the objectives of what they're gonna learn, or they're not 18, they're much older, so.
We have somebody who is actually has degree in education, expertise in education that helped to build this, because
We, Synergist Corporation, we have a partnership with Synergist, and they have a bunch of instructional designers and subject matter expert works with Synergist. And,
yeah, they make sure everything is aligned, and everything titled that equals out to those, at least those 42 credit hours. And so then the instructor will, you know, they'll devise their own activities, but it will meet that synergist.
SYN.
Thank you so much. Very, very appreciated.